Pianist Orrin Evans has built a career defined by fearless exploration and boundless creativity, a journey that began with his 1996 release Just in Time. With now over 20 releases, including Magic of Now, captured live at Smoke, which includes a quartet with Bill Stewart, Vicente Archer, and Immanuel Wilkins, which delivers spontaneous, deeply connected modern jazz. Known for his dynamic touch and bold stylistic range, Evans blends blues, swing, spiritual jazz, and avant-garde with the precision of a master and soul of improviser. Whether leading small groups or his Grammy-nominated big band, Evans creates spaces of structured freedom, always pushing the music forward. And we are live. So, Orrin, thanks for doing this. Good to see you.
I'm gonna learn how to use the mute button before today is over. But
Okay.
great to see you too.
Yeah. Well, I guess happy birthday would be a good place to start because I know you recently just turned 50. I mean, that's half a century.
It is. It is. It is. It's so funny because every once in a while it hits. Normally, I mean, normally I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, whatever, whatever. And then this weekend, I just heard everyone because we played this weekend, happy 50th, and I was like, shit, 50. And every time they said it, someone else said it, and I guess I should be 50. I mean, I got grown men as sons, so I should be 50. But it's still just like, and then you get the ones that's like, well, I got 20 years on you. Like, that's great. I pray that I got 20, 30 more years on people to come and play some music and create.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I probably came across your music maybe, let's say 15 years ago or so, but you still strike me as having the same spirit of someone who was, in your 30s or 20s. Have you always been that way? Has it always felt like you're just trying to push forward over the last few decades?
I think honestly, there's two moments in my life that have kind of shaped me as an artist and as a human. One of them was watching Arsenio Hall when he had his TV show, and Eddie Murphy was his guest, and I couldn't wait to see that episode. And the main reason I couldn't wait to see that episode is because it's just like if you get a chance to see an episode of me and Eric Reeves and Nasheet Waite sitting down talking, or me, Byron Landon, and Matthew Parrish, people that everyone knows I've had a long history with on and off the bandstand. So I knew that was going to be a sincere interview. And one of the things that Eddie Murphy said that day, if internet was alive back then, there would have been a lot of issues with what he said. But to me, it changed my life. Someone said, I don't know whether it was an audience member or whether it was Arsenio himself, but he asked the question, what did you have to fall back on? And Eddie Murphy, in his Eddie Murphy way, this is also 30 years ago, but he chuckled and looked at him like, fall back on? This is what I wanted to do. When you have something to fall back on, you might fall back on. So that was number one. Number two, when my wife and I decided to go to a marriage class, it was like a class, and we had books. We were newly married, and it was based in the church that I was going to, non-denominational church. We had every Tuesday we were there doing homework, everything. And the first day of class, the teacher stood in front of us and said, the number one thing to remember, divorce is not an option. Now, that doesn't mean that I am against anybody that makes that decision to move on with their life without their partner, because no one should be unhappy. But those two things from Eddie Murphy in that class gave me a feeling that I can't quit. I won't quit. I can't quit. I'm not giving up on this career, despite the fact that even in the last month, I've had booking agents call me, say, man, I'd love to work with you. And then say, no, you know what? Never mind. And go with a Grammy winner. I'll put it like that. I've seen a lot that should, even last week, should make me want to say, screw this business. But at the same time, those two moments in my life are what inspire me to keep going. So I'm gonna be 30 and 20. You know, if they want to keep recognizing me as a rising star, I'm gonna keep on rising as a piece of the floor. What's Piece of a Dream did a remake. I forgot what the original was. Rising to the top. Who was that? I forgot it. Anyway, but the point is, I'm gonna just keep on rising. You know, if that's how, in order to sustain, to get your 75th birthday party at the Blue Note, you got to keep rising. So that's what it is. If I look old acting young or young acting old, it doesn't matter. It's just I got to keep on rising.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And that's definitely a unique mindset because so many people get discouraged in this business. There's people who go to school and they quit within a year or 5 years, what have you. But you've always struck me as someone who has the ability to think outside the box. I remember learning about when COVID happened and you did this whole series on your porch, I think, right? And it was, there were people coming to hear the music live. Now that's having the ability to think outside the box. People could say, "Oh, we have to play, but what are we going to do?" And you took action. So it's about taking
Thank you.
action too, right?
It is, and that comes from, I don't know if it's the action part, but growing up in a family of artists, my father, artists slash teachers, whichever order you want to put it in to make yourself feel comfortable. But my father was a playwright and also an educator, taught African American studies for years at Trenton State College, also taught at Princeton. My mother was an opera singer and an educator. So when those stages, back in when she couldn't get some of the stages, we did concerts right in our house. My mom would do you'd be a piano player and her, and everyone sitting around in our living room. Uh, my father's stage plays at the local church, so a lot of those, a lot of the reason that I guess, and I think it is because it's in the DNA. It's in the DNA for me to just like, hey, keep on going. And some of that maybe, my father took he is well known as a playwright. Came up with the Black Artist Movement with August Wilson and others, but he also taught school full time. And I always wonder, was it? I just finished watching this movie called Adolescence on
Oh, it
Netflix.
was amazing.
It
Yeah.
was amazing. And
Yeah,
then
so good.
I'm always one of those people that watches, on YouTube, people describing it after, and someone deals with the fact. My favorite line is, "We made him too." And I'm not going to give it away. Watch the movie to know what we're talking about. And as a parent, or even as a child, you realize two people came together and made you. You are a product of the both of them. So I either need to take the best of them and make it better, or I can take the worst of them and make it worse. And my goal in life is to take the best of them and to try it and make it better. So maybe my father needed to teach, full time and do plays on, I wouldn't say on the side, but that you understand what I mean, and not put as much time as, into that. But maybe he did that so that I could do this, you know. And ironically, the month he died, I got a full-time position teaching middle school and high school a week before he died. And I was thinking, oh man, my father's gonna call me and be like, oh man, you got this job teaching full time. This is great. In his weakness, he said, just make sure this is what you want to do.
Mm.
And I taught there for 3 more years. And then I went on back out on the road. And it's a very deep time, even after post-pandemic. But hopefully the what they made, what they made together, I can go back and look at what both my parents did and say, oh, okay, maybe I have to fill in some blanks because we know our parents didn't talk like we would have wanted them to. So maybe I have to fill in some blanks and say, all right, well, this is what my mother really wanted to do. So I'm going to do this. This is what my father really wanted to do. And do that, because that legacy is important to me, to make sure it keeps on keeping on.
Yeah, that's so, beautifully put out, and it's also part of our DNA, like you said. But you also mentioned that you taught at middle school, high school. But if correct me if I'm wrong, you teach at Rutgers now too, right?
I do now. I started at Germantown Friends, a Quaker school here in Philadelphia, in 2003. And I taught there till 2006. And now I've been at Rutgers 3 years,
So you
and
you went to Rutgers, you were a student at Rutgers, and now you're a teacher, which is as full circle as you can get. And I'm actually kind of curious. Do you see gaps in how jazz is taught that you address personally in your teaching? Because it's such a, you know, I don't want to, I mean, it's there's gaps, and it screws people's heads up, and is music, can it be taught? It can, there's a million arguments. I don't need to get into them, but do you see certain things you address personally when you teach?
I do. Um, I'm not afraid. We live in a very interesting society right now where you can't always give the kids what they want because you're afraid. Or let me rephrase that. You can't give the kids what they need. Sorry, because you're afraid. You're afraid of how this is going to be perceived. You're afraid if you're going to say the wrong thing. Um, I have a student that I saw the other day just needed a hug. I saw that. And everything that went through my head before I did it, I gave the hug. But it was the most scary hug of my life.
Yeah, it's like you have to be, you're hyper aware, right?
You have to be. Yep. But at the same time, I can't be scared in order to give what I really need to give to, because some of it has nothing to do with the bandstand or let me or the classroom. So what I've been trying to do is something that didn't really happen to me. It happened somewhat with Kenny Barron, but during my tenure as a student at Rutgers, there was such a huge wall between me and the faculty. It was like, I'm here to teach you, go away.
Mm.
And I understand that. I get that. And it's self-preservation. But at the same time, these students need way more than just what to play over the harmonic minor scale. They need way more. They need way more than knowing what the pentatonic or the bebop scale. They need way more. And when I brought up that movie, Adolescence, that even proves it more, because there's so many avenues that we don't even know as parents. There's so much going on as parents that we don't know. So really being able, if you ask what do I try to bring that's different, it's
Mhm.
an access. It's just access to your teacher. Access. And that was how my father taught. Like, the students were at my house. The students were my babysitters. The students helped plan my dad's parties. The students were family. My mother cooked for the students. So there was never that wall that I saw at Rutgers University. And maybe I saw a wall that didn't really exist. I don't know. But when I was there, that's what I felt.
No, I mean, I went to Berkeley. I definitely felt the same. This is back in the early 2000s, and there was that, like you want to like, you're like, come on, like trying to pull stuff out of your teacher, and it's just like they won't even. They're not gonna. They're
Yep.
just they have their wall up, their guard. It's
Yep.
probably different now there, though. I mean, so
It may be. I mean, but a lot of that guard is because of what we've seen, and you never know when somebody's going. You just never know. And the key thing, I mean, look, man, the older I get, you tend to, I I get mad when I hear old men say, I just speak my mind now, even if it doesn't make sense. But I also understand the older you get, the more you don't want to hold in stuff, you know? And as I look at even something that was going on now with social media, and I'm gonna bring it up with someone I know well, Connie Hahn, posting something about Nicholas Payton. And it's like the idea, first of all, I respect Connie. You're 30 years younger than Nicholas Payton, almost. But the freedom and the idea of being able to possibly ruin someone's life and not think about it is totally it's totally selfish. So how do we change that as teachers? We got to open the door, let them in, be honest, just like our parents. Our parents weren't always honest. They didn't know how to be. My parents might be older than yours, but my parents would be almost 90 now. So
Mhm.
that's a different kind of thing. They didn't talk about shit. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's what we need to do. Break this wall down and talk more with these kids so they don't run to a social media to get out what they needed to get out another
Yeah,
time.
everyone thinks that speaking your mind means just like, ranting about whatever's on their mind on social media, but I think speaking your mind is that when you get face to face with somebody, it doesn't matter who
Amen.
they are, just being honest and not putting up a wall, because that's where you don't repress anything. I mean, even though there's still the wall up of social media, but if when you're face to face, you don't repress anything if you're truly honest, and that's where you heal yourself too, I think.
Agreed. Agreed.
But it's easier said than done. I
It's
mean,
totally easier said than done. You know, the first part is the thing that we're taught not to really do. And that's look on the other side of that mirror and like the other person. There's some elements of like ego and whatever that we're taught like, oh, don't no, you should look in that mirror. And I mean, I keep going back to that movie because it fits so much. You know, if you don't like who's on the other side of the mirror, then you end up looking for validation from somewhere else. And that's where the problem. So first, like yourself. No matter what, if you miss five chord changes, you turn the beat around, you lose the form, whatever. Like yourself first. Forgive yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, this is all very, very powerful stuff. But I'm sure it gets easier, just with age comes wisdom and knowledge, that sort of thing. But that also, when you have to navigate this business, you have to navigate people you might not gel with on the bandstand personally or musically. And you've worked with so many people over the years. I would imagine. I mean, I would imagine it's not like everyone is always the best of friends. But how do you navigate those situations um, on the bandstand? If like, do you have a kind of a system if you come across where I'm going to be working with this person, but we don't see eye to eye necessarily? How you because that happens to everybody, even if it's like a younger musician, they have to play a gig with somebody and like, oh, they're vibing me or whatnot. You ever think about that?
I do. And but it's almost like Columbo. I know I keep going back to TV. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm an 80s kid. Remington Steele, Matlock, Murder She Wrote. They were all my movies. I didn't really like Columbo as much. I love the acting, but Columbo, you already knew he knew who the murderer was at the beginning. So it wasn't kind of, wow, we keep going back to adolescence, but it kind of wasn't a who done it. It was
Mm-hmm.
why you do it. And at first I didn't really like that because I liked the who. I like to figure out. I like the process of figuring out who it was. Later on in life, I realized, oh, okay, I already know who did it. Now the joy is going to be finding out why. And that's everything in life, So I walk into the gig. My students came to my concert the other day and I had Lisa Fisher on it. A week later, they're like, oh, that Lisa Fisher was amazing. I said, did you do any research and look up who Lisa Fisher is? No. Why not? Like, why didn't you? So my job is kind of be like Columbo. I already know who you are. I know who you are. I've looked you up. I've checked your records out. I may not like everything you play, but I've done my research before I walked on this bandstand where I've met you. So the job from this point on is for you to really figure out if you want to know me,
Mm,
because I'm here. I'm an open book. You can ask me, we can play together. And if you don't like me, great time playing together tonight.
yeah.
Enjoyed it. See you next time. Because I'm already going back to what I said, I'm already okay with the person on the other side of that mirror. So I'm okay with me. I'm actually okay with you, even if I don't like all your records, even if I don't like the way you approach playing over a D flat, I mean, a D minor flat five. If I don't like that about you, that's okay. But here we are on this level playing ground. Here I got my empathy, and I can't stand the way you play those corny changes. And you can have your thing, but we can be cool.
Yeah.
But I already know who did it. I just want to know why. Why do you play like that? You know, and by the end of the day, sometimes you end up like, oh wow, I really want to play with that person again. There was something I didn't really hear the first time, or I didn't hear on that record. Or you end as like, it's okay. That person can have a space in this industry, and so can I.
Yeah. So bring your empathy is what you're saying when in those situations.
You got to have empathy in your back pocket at all
All
times.
time. Okay. Um, one thing that this is just kind of like I don't know why it made me want to ask this question, but I wish I didn't do this. But sometimes I might get excited, like when I'm going to play with a new musician who I really admire, and I might, it's almost overly excited, where it's not you're not playing through the music, you're just asserting too much of yourself right away. And I'll be honest about it; it's happened, in recent times. Um, do you ever still does that when you're playing with someone who you really admired, like how do you ever still get that almost excitement, you have to like calm yourself down, or is it just I'm gonna you figure out how to navigate that too? Because even where you are today, it's like there's still so much more to go, like you said, another 30 years or something, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, the nervousness still exists, but, and I know I've said this 5 million times, the more I became comfortable in my own skin, I'm going to do me,
Yeah.
and that might mean that the best way to look at it is, you know, I want to play with Buster Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play with Jeff Tate Watts. I want to play with Gary Bartz. I can go down a list, of everybody that I would love to play with. I had to realize that whether or not they call me for their gigs, it's not the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they repost what I post, it's not the thing. They said yes, and they showed up at my gig and they did the job. Everything else is in my hands. Like, let me do another gig with them. Let me do another gig. But we get caught into our ego gets us into this place sometimes where we're like, well, I called them and they didn't call me back, or I called them and they didn't blah 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 whatever. There could be so many different
Oh
things.
yeah, there's like an endless number of possibilities.
Yeah,
It just we don't know anything at the end of the day.
exactly. They didn't smile on my
Yeah.
gig, whatever it is. But it always goes back to I wanted to play with that person and they said yes. Once you realize that, I mean, I guess yeah, they said yes. So if that happened, you're halfway there.
Yeah. Just just accepting that they said yes is, that you should be riding that wave and not worrying so much.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um when you work with all these different artists over the years in a variety of settings, as I mentioned, what do you look for in musicians when forming a group? Is it, you know, what percentage of it is musically and growing, or what percent it's also personally? You might have somewhat of a rapport in it. Like, so what are certain things you think about? Like, let's say a club says, "Oh, we're gonna bring in a band for a week, an all new band or something to this venue." Like, what would you be thinking about when
Well,
that phone ring calls?
for me, I just I'll try it. I'll try it. I'll try it first, no matter what, with any artist to get on the bandstand. But I gotta love them off the bandstand. You know, uh, it's so funny when people say, "Oh, well, I know you like that drummer, or you like that drummer that plays like that." Like, it's not about the way that Vince Ector plays nothing like Byron Landon. Byron Landon plays nothing like Ralph Peterson.
Mm.
And go down the list. They're all Nasheet Waits plays like Nasheet Waits plays. All of these are drummers that I love playing with. Smitty, all of them. Terry Lynn. They're all different. They're all different. But you've made an assumption that this is what I like.
Right.
And honestly, what I really like is their freedom to be who they are. I've never, ever had to wonder who any of those people that I just listed, who they are, as a human. I'm not talking about as a musician.
Hmm.
As a human, I've never had to wonder, and that's what I love. Like when I get to the gig, are you coming in as a contractor or are you coming in as an artist? And I prefer the artist.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So it's more they are whoever I hire themselves. That's what I look for, you know. And then I can figure out whether this is the gig for you or that's because that's why it's my bandstand, quote unquote. But the reality is just be you.
And all those people that, like you said, they're all so unique in their own way, and they all sound completely different. Um, so as far as what's coming up in the new year, are there any upcoming projects you're really excited about now? Stuff that's on the calendar for 2025 that you're looking forward to?
Man, nothing specific. I'm going out and doing some camps this summer that I'm really excited about.
Oh, cool.
Allison Miller called me for one out in California. Um, and I have a Brazilian project that I haven't released yet that I'm going to release. Uh, Nothing specific except continuing to make an impact on the scene and try to deliver up daily doses of vitamin M, and that people will really come out and get their daily dose of vitamin M and realize it's not about support because they need the music just as much as we need to play it.
When you said daily dose, I was just thinking, I'm like, Oren seems like the type of person he wakes up every day and he's like, let's just do it. Let's keep going on this journey. No,
That
because
is it.
we're going to get kicked in the face or whether it's going to be we got to just keep pushing. Like we're on this mission to play this music and that's it.
That is it. That is it. I told you I'm gonna hire you as a writer.
Yeah. No, Oren, this has been so much fun. And, and thanks for taking the time for, answering my questions today. Such insightful stuff. So just want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you.